Hi, I'm Stephanie Rozzo. Welcome to Nature Sketch Crate's Coral Champion step-by-step painting instructions video. In this video, I'll be showing you how to paint the Coral Champion using Nature Sketch Crate's step-by-step painting instructions. First, collect all your materials and make sure they're ready to go. Remember, this is just a sketch. Take your time, have fun, and don't worry too much if you think you made a mistake. Let's get started. Step 1, transfer the image to the watercolor paper. First, go ahead and add some tape to an edge. You want to make sure you're not covering up any of the image lines or any lines that you may want to transfer. And then tape that to that edge and fold it over and attach it to the back of the watercolor paper. Open it up and place your graphite transfer paper dark side down, light side up. As you can see, I've used this graphite transfer paper many times. You can use it over and over and over. Flatten it out and go ahead and start transferring some lines. So I like to start with a few. Actually, I'll probably add a couple on this open side. It'll be a little easier than taking the transfer paper off completely. So transfer a couple, and then I'll check it and see how it's transferring. One, you want to make sure it's actually transferring before you transfer all the lines. And then number two, you want to make sure you have the right pressure. So you want to be able to see those lines. You don't want them to be too dark, but if they're on the darker side, that's totally fine. So go ahead and use a medium pressure and just trace over all of those lines to transfer them. And you can put on some music, maybe a podcast or an audiobook. Just relax and think of this as a meditative exercise. And don't worry too much about being super exact. If the lines are a little off, it's still going to be great. So just go ahead and go through and transfer all of these lines. You can flip this up and down to make sure that all the lines have been transferred appropriately. Right, that you haven't missed any. I always seem to miss one or two. Looks like it did pretty good. I think I missed a line right here. And as you can see, the lines are not perfect. It's totally fine. Be able to redefine them a few times. And once you're happy with the lines that are transferred, go ahead and place your graphite transfer paper to the side. Remove the tape from the back of the watercolor paper. Take the tape off the transfer image, set that to the side to help you protect your painting while you're working. Use the kneaded eraser to remove any unwanted graphite marks if you want. It might show up a little bit and that's fine. Or you can even use it to lighten some of the graphite marks if that's what you like. Now that all the image lines are transferred, go ahead and move on to step 2. Step 2, paint the wettest, lightest champion green and pink. First, take the 18H Viridian Green, shake it up to make sure any of the paint pigment hasn't settled to the bottom. You want to get it mixed in so you get the full concentration of this color. 2 drops, 1, 2. And then 2 drops of 32H raw skin. 1, 2. And 2 drops of the 26H chrome yellow. 1, 2. You can take your paintbrush, your water brush, squeeze it just a little bit, get a little bit of water, mix that up, or you can add a little bit of water to your palette from your cup of water or whatever you have with water on the side. Make sure it's well mixed and then take a little bit, move it to the side and add some water to it. Dab it off to clean it on your towel. And then pick a little bit more up, lightly dab it on your towel and test it on your scrap watercolor paper. Looks a little bit dark still, but close. I'm going to add just a little bit more water, clean it off on my towel, pick up a little bit more, dab it lightly on the towel, and then test it out. That looks about right. And pick up a bunch of that and start adding it, referring to step 2's image. And you can just kind of start on one end and move to the other to color that in. When it starts to get a little dry or not as dark as you want, just pick up a little bit more, dab it off onto your towel, and go back to it. So starting on one end, working to the other, kind of pulling that watercolor over to make one consistent layer of color. And you can refer to your image in step 2 or your final reference image or both. We're adding that to the leaves and the stems here. My stem lines got a little messed up, but I left them because I wanted to show you that making mistakes is okay. Something that can be changed later. If needed. Now I'm going to mix the champion pink. And take a little carmine, shaking up the bottle again, so 28H carmine. And 1 drop of that, adding some water to it. Make it really wet, with a clean brush of course. Just adding each of the space. It looks pretty good. I tested it on my test strip. And then add a little more water, dab it off onto my towel, and then add it in. If it's a little too dark or a little too light, you can still adjust it even after you put it on your paper. But I like the color. Every time I pick up more paint, I dab my paintbrush onto my towel. Make sure to clean your brush and then move on to step 3. Step 3, paint in the wettest, lightest champion red and yellow. So mix the Champion Red, start with the 28H Carmine, shake it up, add 2 drops, 1, 2, to your palette, and then 2 drops of the 32H Raw Sienna, and 2 drops of the 26H Chrome Yellow. Add some water to it and mix it up. Take a little bit to the side and add lots of water to it. Dab it off onto your towel and test it on your test strip after you dab it on your towel. And really use the very wet light color. So that's why I've added lots of water to it in my palette. Once I pick up a little bit more color, dab it off on the towel and add it to the leaves and stems as you see in step 3. Make sure your leaves are dry, of course. And if you need to refer to your final reference image, you can do that as well. And clean off your brush and add the drier, darker Champion Red. So not a lot of water added after making the color, mixing the color. Dab it onto your towel, test it on your test strip to make sure it's right. And then add it to each space. Being careful not to smudge the leaves you just painted. And you can refer to image in step 3 or the final reference image, whatever works best for you. And it's basically just going to go over all the lines you transferred. And don't worry about getting it exact, just approximately where you see it in the image. And if you make any mistakes, that's totally fine. It will add character to your painting. Make sure you have a clean brush and then mix the Champion Yellow using 1 drop of the 26H Chrome Yellow. And take a little bit of that to the side after getting a drop and add more water to it. Dry it off onto your towel. Pick up a little bit of it, dab it on your towel, and then test it out. Looks pretty good. And I'll add that just to the spadix here and this one here as well. Clean off my brush, let this dry, and move on to step 4. Step 4, paint in the driest, darkest Champion Yellow and Green. So first use the Champion Yellow. And check that, test that on your test paper. And then take a little bit, dab it off onto your towel and apply it to the spadix here. And a little bit on this other one, and then on the upper right leaf here. again, you can refer to your final reference image and your image step 4. Don't worry about getting it exact, it's just a sketch. Clean off your brush and then paint in the driest darkest champion green to the leaves. And once again, referring to your final reference image and step 4's image for placement. And painting this, just trying to leave the vein a little bit lighter and the outer edge a little lighter as well. So just basically trying to avoid those two spaces. Once you've added that in, go ahead and clean off your brush and move on to step 5. Step 5, paint in the champion purple. First, you'll want to mix the champion purple, 1 drop of Viridian green, 18H, and 1 drop of the 28H carmine. Mix those together with a little bit of water, and then take a little bit to the side and add a bunch of water to it. Dab it off onto your towel and test it on your test strip. Looks like good color to me. Maybe add just a little more water. That looks great. And I'm going to add it to the leaves, as you see in the picture in step 5 and your final reference image. Let it dry and move on to step 6. Step 6, paint in the champion green, red, and purple. Clean off your brush and then paint in some of a medium concentration of the champion green. So not super wet, not super dry. Something in between that looks like the color in the example on step 5. I think that looks good. And remember, you're adding the water to your palette, not to your paper. Once you have that color, you've tested on your test strip to check it out, pick it up onto your brush, dab it a little bit onto your towel, and then go ahead and apply it to your painting. And you'll just apply that to the stems and the leaves. And while this is a little wet, you can add a little bit more if you didn't think you got it dark enough. So I want to paint in a wet light champion red. Dab it off onto your towel and then apply it to your paper. It's not quite dark enough when I picked it up again. A little bit more, and then just go ahead and paint it in like you see in your final reference image and in step 6 to each spade. Add a drier, darker champion purple. It's kind of color in between the light, wet, and the driest, darkest. Dab it off onto your towel and test it on your paper. Looks good. Pick some up, dab it on your towel, and then apply it as you see in the leaves. It's a bit dark, so I'm going to dab it off a little more. If it's too dark, just adjust the color on your towel by adding a little water to the brush and dabbing it off on there, and some color will come off, like you saw. I just did it just now. Again, referring to your final image and the image in step 6. And if it's a little darker, that's fine. Probably err on the darker side anyway. Once you've added all of those colors, clean your brush, let this dry, and move on to step 7. First, use the 005 black micron to add some lines. Outline the common name. Go ahead and add the lines like you did when you were transferring the image. So you're going to be redrawing those lines in. And you can refer to your final image, and you can refer to your transfer image and follow any lines that are still visible after you painted. You can also redefine lines as needed, making things thicker or thinner to adjust for where you painted or if you made any mistakes. This stem is a little thin, so I'm going to make it a little thicker right now. Use the 01 black micron to thicken some of the lines as you see in 7A and to write in the scientific name. So you can refer to 7A, and you can also refer to your final reference image. Any of the lines that are not super thick are going to be this micron, which a lot of lines are really thick that are added, but add a few of these thinner ones. Use the 08 black micron to add thicker lines. You can refer to 7A or your final reference image. Also fill in the common name. This plant has some very thick, waxy, sturdy parts. So I've added a lot of thick lines to mimic that. It's not really a very delicate plant. It doesn't look delicate in appearance. We're done. Great job. You have created a painting that's unique to you. Thank you for joining me. I hope you had fun and had a chance to relax a little. Next, you have a few options of what you can do with this painting. You can punch holes in it and add it to your sketchbook. You can frame it to gift it or display it in your house. Make sure to also add it to our Facebook fan art page. Check out the Nature Sketch Crate website to purchase future crates and sign up for our newsletter for regular updates. Please also make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel and like this video.